Hey, what's up? We just shot this little video and I want to take you behind the scenes on how it was done, how we shot it, the importance of lighting and sound effects in your film, and how you can make a really cinematic, moody piece only using one light. So let's just jump into it. With this opening shot, you have me in the garage and you have this like really slow push in. And what I actually did here was I have a tube light that I actually just used on a C-stand and I boomed it over my subject. And then a happy accident with this was I actually have a light on the side of my garage and it actually kicked off of my handlebars on my motorcycle really nicely. And it created like a really nice depth to the shot. So now you have, you know, your foreground, your midground, and your background. But really I just turned off all the garage lights and I just used my tube light above the frame to create like a fluorescent light feel. And then you cut to a tighter shot. We did the same exact thing. I didn't move the light at all. It's just sitting over my head ever so slightly out of frame. And what that's doing is it's creating this like really nice fill in the background so you can see what's going on in the background. But also it's lighting the subject really nicely on the top of the head, onto the shoulders, and then there's just this nice fall off. And it really creates this like dark, moody feel that I was trying to go for with this film. From here, we moved the camera over to my shoulder. I had the intention of wanting to give you a little glimpse of not just showing the back of the character, but like to showcase that they're working on something, but still kind of be vague with what they're working on to kind of keep the audience interested, hopefully, in what they're watching. And then it cuts to the moment where you actually see the tube light in the frame. Now, I purposely planned this because I wanted to give the viewer an idea of where their light's coming from. If you've ever heard about motivated lighting, sometimes you need to show the light and motivate it a little bit more. I actually just used the tube light as not only the practical motivating light, but also to put it in the frame, if that makes sense. And it's just a tube light literally boomed over on a C-stand, sitting in the frame. And what I actually did was instead of it being over my head, I moved it backwards a little bit to be in the frame and to create a contrast within the frame. So you're going to see here that the light is beaming off. It's casting like a nice little beam of light onto my hat, but then you still get this like shadow into my face. You can kind of see my face a little bit, but it's just really creating this nice contrast in the image. Another little happy accident is that same light that was in my garage is beaming on the insulation in my garage ceiling, just creating this like little blue light cast onto the foil. From here, you can see that in the frame, the light starts flickering. What I did with the tube light is there's a setting that you can do effects on it, and I just changed it to pulsing. And so here in the back, it just starts pulsing. I'm looking around, and then you cut to another shot. You can move the light around. You don't have to stick with one thing. If you're needing to light your subject a certain way, make sure to move your light around to get that effect. So for instance, in the last frame, the light was behind me, but now it's actually bumped up ahead of me. People aren't necessarily going to be thinking about like where the light is located. If you can give them a reason to believe what they're looking at is real and authentic, they're not going to ask any other questions the rest of the way, as long as you don't make it crazy. So with this frame, you actually have like the light casting onto my face a little bit, and it's just creating this like nice roll off into the darkness of the frame. And then the other light in the background is another sign that I have in my garage, and it just created this nice little depth to the frame. Instead of it just being black, this was a happy accident where I was able to have like lights going on in the background. As the light is pulsing, what I did was I ended up just like shooting a few things in my garage with that same pulsing effect. What I love about the tube lights is they're RGB. And so while it was still pulsing on this camera shot, I ended up just like sliding it over to red to create like a really weird feeling of what was going on. And that's exactly what we did here. We had two practicals in the backgrounds, but I only had one main light source. And the reason I wanted to do this video is so that you could understand. You might see all these films and you hear all these people talk about 3-point source lighting, but you don't have to have like all these different lights in order to make a frame. In fact, if you look at a lot of these different movies that we see here, they're mainly one source of light with a harsh contrast, and that's what creates like a really dark and moody feel. And so if you're wanting to do that, you don't have to have all these lights. I don't want you to feel overwhelmed that you got to go buy like 5 lights in order to light a scene and make it look good. You can make it look good with just one practical light. And it doesn't even have to be a tube light. It could be a point source light. It could be an LED panel light. It could be a little pocket light. Get creative with it. Have fun. Go shoot something. Make it like worth your time. And just get creative and don't let the restrictions hold you back from making the projects you want to make. And that's how you get cinematic lighting, is not having a million lights, but just being creative with the lights that you currently have. So I want to talk about editing, and how we edited this whole entire project is pretty straightforward, pretty simple. I just had my camera locked off on a tripod. I did some slow digital pushes, as you can see in the opening scene. But what really makes your films more powerful is the sound design. I want to talk about how music can also be a part of the sound design in sound effects. What I did here is you clearly have music playing throughout the film, but what I did was I actually edited it to be to sound like it was coming from a radio. The reason I did that was, instead of it feeling like you're observing something in the frame, I wanted you to feel like you're actually a part of the frame. And so what I did was make that song like sound like it's coming from a radio, to make you feel like you're in the garage with the talent, with the character. To make it more believable that the light above me is a fluorescent light, we gave like a buzzing sound, and you can hear that in the frame ever so slightly. And there's also like things going on in the background, like me working on something. We added those sounds in, so you can hear clicking and racking, whatever those sound effects are. So you hear the buzzing throughout the whole entire film of the fluorescent light until it starts flickering out. What I did here was I actually just started cutting the sound. So when the light would go off, I would like splice up the audio. So I would just cut out the parts where the light wasn't on and wasn't flickering, and I would just like mute it. That just made it more convincing that the light bulb is like going on and off and flickering on and off. I did the same thing with the radio. You can hear that the radio starts to get a little bit crazier, things start changing, and right before that frame, I did like an explosion sound, and I muffled it to make it sound like something happened in the distance, and we're a little worried about what's happening. Feels very post-apocalyptic-y, whatever. When the light turns red, I added this really weird like alien sound, just to make it sound like something is like really digitally wrong, or something's like really gone bad. I don't know. When it comes to grading the project, pretty straightforward. I graded it in Film Convert like I always do with all my projects. I just love how Film Convert is when you grade it. The one thing that I did do with this that I normally, it depends on the project, but I added a little bit of grain in it to give it a little just bit more texture, to give it like a film-like look. The way I got that blooming effect was I simply just used a black Promise filter. Just threw that on my camera. I actually shoot that with like all of my stuff. Yeah, there's actually a black Promise filter on my lens right now. It creates that really nice bloom, but then to go even a little bit crazier, I added some halation, and you can see that here on the hat. It's just beaming pink or red off the frame a little bit. And just that paired with the bloom filter, paired with the grain, it gives for like a more film-like look. Just kind of creates like a little bit of grit to your project, that much more. The things that I learned is that you don't need to have all of these different lights to make something happen. You can just use the stuff that you currently have to make something cool. And that's the most important part, is just making something happen. Waiting around for things to be perfect, you're never going to complete it. I've said that before, and I'll say that again. Just go out, create something. Hopefully you found this little video breakdown a little bit helpful to go make your next project. And if you have any questions regarding this film and how it was shot, or how it was graded, or any other questions about it, please feel free to ask those questions down below. If you like this video, please make sure to like and subscribe, because that helps a lot for me to be able to do more videos like this in the future. But yeah, I've got a few cool projects coming out that I'm really excited to share with you guys. So if you like this video, I definitely think you're going to like the other few videos. So again, make sure to like and subscribe, and we will see you guys in the next video.